joined on the line by Brian Hogan, an All-Ireland winning captain for Kilkenny in 2011, who played for over 10 years from 2004 to 2014, who is a centre-back, has won 7 All-Ireland, 8 Leinster, 6 National Leagues and 2 All-Stars, as we look ahead to the preview at the Allianz Hurling League 2019. And Brian Hogan is going to provide our listeners now with a Kilkenny perspective. And I suppose, Brian, if I can just a quick mention back there to 2018, it was an important season for Kilkenny, a side sort of in transition at the time, whether they were going to make steps forwards or backwards, and they certainly made a good few steps forwards last year in their development. And if you look at it, they bowed out to the All-Ireland winning champions Limerick. At the time, people might have been saying, oh, they get side, but little did they know Limerick would go on to win the All-Ireland, and convincingly so. So there might be a slight bit of air optimism that Kilkenny are getting closer to the top table for the year ahead.
Yeah, no, definitely, Jim. I think at the beginning of last year, there was probably Kilkenny people were a little bit unsure where exactly this team was at. You know, I know the term I suppose redeveloping or you know, was being thrown around, and it's not a term that I think Brian would buy into. You know, I think the basic principle for him would be that any Kilkenny team that goes out on the pitch needs to be and has to be competitive. I think that's the kind of the basis for what he looks for out of players. But saying that, I don't think many people would have expected that Kilkenny side to go on and win a National League. So that was a huge bonus, and I think as much for the players themselves as anything, because I suppose, you know, there was so much made of, you know, certain players retiring and leaving the squad, you know, who were obviously, you know, a lot of trophies, a lot of medals in the back pocket, and it was, you know, it was a difficult situation for a number of those younger guys coming in and having to listen to that. So, you know, having, I suppose, a lot of them having picked up their first medal themselves, I think gave them a huge boost of confidence. And, you know, you mentioned the Limerick match. I think, you know, coming away from that, it was a really, I think for myself, I thought this Limerick team really meant business, you know, because it was the manner and the way they put Kilkenny to the sword. You know, it could very easily have drifted away from them. You know, when Richie Hogan came on and made the impact he did. That, you know, you would have forgiven Limerick. You know, years gone by, they probably would have dropped their heads and Kilkenny would have pushed on. But the way they came back, and it showed huge character and resilience from Limerick, and yeah, I genuinely thought, Jesus, this team, there's something different about this Limerick team. But at the same time, you know, Kilkenny, you know, they put up a great showing at the end. I think it's set them up nicely for this year. You know, as you mentioned, you know, they can build on that. They can say, look, we're a puck of a ball away from beating the All-Ireland champions. You know, we're not too far away. It's probably one or two small things, you know, that's going to make the difference this year for Kilkenny.
Yeah, and I suppose, Brian, many people would have said that Kilkenny were a sort of a team now mixing that blend of youngsters coming through. But actually, when you look at the Kilkenny side itself, and I'll just call out the spine of their team, it's made up an awful lot of seasoned pros and All-Ireland winners. If you look at the full back line, you starting in goals, Owen Murphy, then the full back line, Joey Holden, Pádraig Walsh, Killian Buckley in the half back line, and then up front, Walter Walsh, Colin Finnelly, TJ Reid, Richie Hogan. There's an awful lot of experience for youngsters to come into a side around those established players and drive on from that. So there's still an awful lot of leaders still left in that Kilkenny team, and you mentioned look at all those lads there.
Absolutely, you know, and I think, you know, exactly, you look up the spine of the team, it's very strong. There's a huge amount of experience there within that squad, and, you know, I think, look, the reality of it is that, you know, Kilkenny are never going to be too far away, particularly under the guidance of Brian himself. You know, he's not going to buy into or allow any talk seep into the camp of transition or development. You know, every year, he will set out the stall that the All-Ireland is the end goal, and there's no 2-year, 3-year, 4-year plan. That's as far as the lads inside is, it's the here and now that counts. And, you know, there's a couple of younger guys like James Marr and Paddy Deegan from my own club, and one or two others who really had a really strong year last year and have put themselves now in pole position for positions on the team. You know, to complement the likes of Killian and TJ and Richie Hogan, and that's really what it'll take is, you know, probably another one or two, even three of those kind of younger players coming through and nailing down the position. Just I suppose to take a bit of the pressure off the the senior guys, because the reality is now it's and it has been for the last number of years. It's a 20-man game, and you need that paddle, you need that strength, you need those guys coming in that are going to make an impact. So I think the signs are pretty positive. There's a couple of guys there that we would be hopeful this year, even that maybe didn't get game time last year, that will make the step up, and I think if they do, I think Kilkenny will be in a stronger position again this year.
Yeah, and I suppose, Brian, if I can start off looking at your fixtures for the Allianz League in 2019, and your 2 games at home, and they always say your home games are crucial. It's about winning your home games and then seeing whatever you can pick up on the road on your travels, and no crucial match than the first match, given that your other home game is against the All-Ireland Championship, Cork at home, and already that looks a pivotal game to decide where Kilkenny's fortunes will lie in the league, because after that then they're away to Clare, home to Limerick, so it's a difficult run. But the Cork game is already looking like a mouth-watering game. The first game, both sides, it's going to set the stall for the league, and Kilkenny, I say, will have target that Cork game to get from a long way out to get the start and try and build on that.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, you have to win your home games. I mean, you don't want to be, I suppose, heading down to Ennis or over to Salt Hill or something, or wherever it is, down to Thurles, needing, having to get the win. But, so the home matches are crucial. But, I mean, I suppose the Division 1A, the league, it's pretty attritional. There's every game is a serious contest. There's no real kind of, there is no gimmies. There's no matches where you can say, well, look, we'll rest a few guys. Every game is a must win. And I think that's the way Brian and the management team would have it. They wouldn't have it any other way. I think they would rather have it that way, where every game is a test, and how they come through it. And even you have to think back to last year, and I suppose Dublin really should have beaten Kilkenny, and that really set the tone for the rest of the year. I think Dublin struggled from there on in, to recover from that, and it gave Kilkenny the lift then to drive on, but it's a huge test. Cork have been pushing for the last few years just to, I suppose, to make that next step, and even the game last year in the National League, it was a great hustle up in Nolan Park as well, and there was a couple of great battles there in Pádraig Walsh on Conor Lahan and that. So I'm sure it'll be the same again, and obviously then the following week a trip to Ennis. That's there's no tougher place really to go. I remember travelling down there myself once or twice, but they're the matches you love. They're the matches as a player you really enjoy, is going down into the Lions Den, or into a full house and playing. Your backs to the wall. If you come out of those kind of games with a result, you're set up. You're heading in the right direction for the year ahead.
Yeah, and I suppose, Brian, if I can bring you onto that Clare game, and we know Kilkenny's record over most counties in the last few years, but lately now, Brian Cody, I suppose, he's given an awful lot of praise in the last few years to Clare, and it's probably been the one sort of side, Clare, that have probably record that he probably like to readdress. Clare's record against Kilkenny in the last few years has been quite good, and it's the running sort of a game, and the athleticism of Clare seems to give Kilkenny a sort of bit of problems. It's a sort of game where Tony Kelly seems to always excel against Kilkenny. And away game, and what you make of Kilkenny, where will this target Clare, and what do you think are the opportunities for them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I remember. I think this was my last season, or maybe the season before. I remember heading down tennis to play Clare, and I suppose Tony and Conor Ryan and all these guys, McMahon were coming to the fore, and just the energy and the pace that they brought to it. And without doubt, I remember being at the match up in Nolan Park. I think it was a relegation playoff. And, it was a titanic battle again, and it always brings out I think the best in both sides. You go back even as far as the early 2000s, and I suppose, the loans. And I remember going down to Ennis and a fairly attritional game there with Henry picked up an injury and whatever, but they're always great battles, and great contests, and I think this one will be no different, I think from a Kilkenny perspective, that really it'll be focusing on themselves. They're not going to get too caught up on what team Clare line out or what Clare bring. Obviously, they'll be aware that Clare will play a certain style of hurling, and that'll present its own challenges, but I think very much from Brian's perspective, from Kilkenny's perspective, it'll be whichever 15 get the starting jersey. It's up to them to make sure that they put in a performance, or put in a shift, that they hold on to the jersey, and they'll be looking to play their own type of game. And over the last year or two, that's evolved. They've looked to try and play through the lines a little bit more, and find players with the ball a little bit more. So I'm sure they'll try that. That'll be Kilkenny's focus, is building on that. And from the manager's perspective, they're the matches where you really find out what the kind of, particularly the younger guys, are made of. If a guy can go down to Ennis, or can go over to Salt Hill, as I mentioned, or down to Thurles, in a match under lights, against like the Tip and these guys, and Clare and these guys, if they can hold their own there, on the lines then, as I said, and come out of it, then you've got something to work with. You've got guys that you can trust, and back then come the later stages of the year when it comes into the championship. So they're matches that Brian will obviously place huge mass on, and he'll have a huge interest in. So that first away match down in Ennis will be a big test for the Kilkenny players, without doubt.
Yeah, and if I can mention maybe a player on each side now, Brian, in relation to the threat they pose, and as management looking on to sort of counteract it, and how important these players. I suppose TJ Reid, we know when TJ Reid hits form, and when he is on form, he's undoubtedly one of the best hurlers in the country. He can score from any point to the park, and his frees are immaculate. On the flip side then, John Conlan is coming off probably one of his best years, and a contender for Player of the Year last year. Many people thought that he was unlucky to miss out. He revelled inside of the full forward spot, and that's a tricky matchup for any Kilkenny defender that's assigned to pick him up. Absolutely.
I think Conlan he had a phenomenal year last year. He's just a player I love watching, and I suppose you'd hate to mark, and they're very similar, both himself and TJ, in that they're both equally capable of winning their own ball and taking scores. Oftentimes, a forward might be a score getter, or he might be, his strength might be winning possession and laying it off, whereas I suppose the top forwards are the guys who could do it all. John, he's no problem mixing it physically with any defender if that's what is needed. But he's a hurler first and foremost, and I suppose the first I would have seen him would have been under 21 for Clare when they beat Kilkenny, and I've seen him progress from there, and he's just a class player, and equally the TJ. I don't think you need to talk too much about TJ, what he's done over the years. And I suppose, for TJ, even last year when Richie was injured, and, really he was the focal point of the Kilkenny attack, he still was able to step up every game and get 7-8 points and a goal usually. He's just, a huge talisman for Kilkenny. And I suppose the key for Kilkenny really is to try and get one or two of the other players, or three of the other players to step up and start, I suppose, contributing a little bit more, just to take the pressure off TJ, and I think even keeping Richie Hogan fit, he'll take watching, which hopefully then will allow a bit more room for TJ. But yeah, look, two players that you pay to go in and watch. You just love watching them in action.
And finally, Brian, I suppose the target for Kilkenny, obviously they would like to equal or go better than equal what they did. They can't go better than what they did last year in the league, but they want to probably develop that sort of panel going into championship. And I suppose I'm just looking at the last fixture there, and it's a real sort of one that probably both Kilkenny and Wexford probably would have wanted earlier on in the league, but they're going to be playing each other in the last game. It's going to be so close to championship. If there's something online for both sides in the last league game, will that take a life of its own, or will both teams be so wary and cagey, so out for a championship, not to really show their hand either? How difficult is that having Wexford in the last game, where both teams might have something to play for in terms of making the final or relegation?
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes you can overcomplicate these things. I know last year Kilkenny Wexford would have played, I think it was 3 times, if not 4, between the Welsh Cup, the league, and then obviously in the semi-final league. And I suppose you can try and start second guessing yourself and the opposition and what's going to pan out later on in the year. And more often than not, you're better off just keep it simple and take it as it comes. And that tends to be the way that we would have approached it. And playing Wexford in the last game of the league, regardless of whether we're fighting for relegation or fighting to try and get into a league final, you know, it's a win, you know. And I think last year when we played Wexford, they would have had the upper hand in the first two games. They would have got the wins. And coming into that match, the last match, you know, in the league, I think it was the semi-final. I think whether they tried to, I don't know, you know, had they kind of, you know, second guessed themselves and tried to be too clever around things or whatever. But Kilkenny went out and hurled that day and went out to win the match, plain and simple, and that shifted the momentum. You know, Kilkenny went on and won a National League title, and it gave them the confidence and the impetus to drive on from there, you know, and have, and you know, come away from the year with, you know, relatively pleased with how it panned out. Whereas I suppose the wheels came off to a certain extent for Wexford, you know, and for the number, you know, it's been so long since they've won a National League title. I was surprised. I thought they were a bit flat. You know, I would have expected them really to go flat out for a National League title. What a lift that would have given them. So I think you can sometimes try and be a bit too clever in these games, and you know, there's nothing beats winning. You know, it's the old saying, you know, it's a habit. You know, and once you get into it, you want to stay in it. So I think regardless of what way the league, the games before that pan out, I think both teams, you know, certainly from Kilkenny's perspective, they'll be going on to win, plain and simple, and then wherever the chips fall after that, so be it. But you know, Brian won't be trying to be too clever about things. You know, it'll be the win first and foremost from a Kilkenny perspective, anyway. And
finally, I suppose, Brian, just quick, sort of, just for a minute there before we finish, just a sort of double-edged question there for you. Two guys that caught my eye last year on the Kilkenny side in relation to the potential of breakout stars were Liam Blanchfield and Richard Leahy. And what you make of them, and finally, what your time under Brian Cody, and do you think he's excited even more now for the times that he's ahead, or do you compare to when he was winning All Ireland's year in, year out? Does this challenge even excite him more, that he knows that he has to come from maybe from the middle of the pack to overthrow the rest of them again?
Yeah, sure. So I'll take your first question first. Was with two lads, I mean, like Richie Leahy obviously has been, you know, earmarked since he was, I suppose, 16. You know, he's a super talent. You know, he has it all. He has it all for the inter-county match. You know, for the senior level, I mean, he's got the pace. He's got legs for it. He's a super hurler. You know, so he's great skill. And I think this year is a big year for him. You know, I think he came on the scene 2 years ago, in and out of the team. You know, and was, you know, it was probably a bit young last year. Probably struggled a little bit to nail down a permanent place. But you know, this year now is a big year, and you'd be hoping that he'd really kind of nail down the position. You know, like all players, it takes a few years to learn, I suppose, what inter-county hurling is all about. You know, it's a big step up for underage, but I'd have huge hope for Richie. I think he's a huge talent, and Liam Blanchfield, he had a good year with Bensbridge this year. They got to the county final for the first time in years. A different type of player, a more physical player, you know, a physical presence. Again, a big year for him. His first year in the Kilkenny Bally, he had a great year. Came on, you know, and made a big impact. Last year, struggled a little bit for form. So again, I think this year is an important year for Liam to kind of nail down a place. And I think if he does, he'll be a big addition, because he adds that physical presence up in the forwards that we probably need, you know, to help TJ and Conlan and the likes. From Brian's perspective, yeah, look, he just loves the challenge. He loves hurling first and foremost. I don't know, do I know anyone that loves it more? It's his life. He'll absolutely love that drive. I suppose I can think back to just coming near the end of last year, you know, where maybe Clare won the Allianz in 2013, and you know, all the pundits and the newspapers were writing how hurling had changed, and this is the new type of hurling. You know, equally, if you go back to maybe 2004 when Cork were playing the short pass game, hurling was supposed to change then as well. And you know, that Brian will relish that type of talk. You know, and he'll drive it within the camp. Then you know, he'll bring it back to basics for the lads. I think he loved the challenge, the fact that like Limerick now are on top, and they're the ones with the bullseye, you know, on their backs, and you know, he'll relish that challenge, and it'll be something that will, not that he needs any more motivation, but certainly, you know, it'll be another you know, kind of opportunity for him to drive the players and motivate them, you know. So it's a different type of motivation maybe from when you're on top and you know you're trying to stay on top. Now you're back down in the pack and you're looking to get back up there. So it's you know, Brian won't need a whole lot of motivation. You can need worry that any TV's over will be prepared for the challenge ahead.
Brian Hogan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you on the airwaves today. We wish you all the best in your future endeavours, and we wish Kilkenny a prosperous league and championship in 2019. Take care, Brian.
Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.